This is the realm of rooted cosmic soul storytime. Welcome to the tales of Leaf and Lillian, the story of Watsupat. In our family, all of the girl children are named after different women of our bloodline. When the random boy is born, his first name is the surname of the last known man in our tribe. There aren't too many boys born anymore, but that's a story for a different time. When I was about 2 months old, I started waking every night to cackle and laugh. A deep, old woman's laugh. And on the other side of our sleeping dwelling, my titi Lillian, also my moon guide, would remain asleep and yet cackle in unison with me. This continued and then abruptly stopped when I turned 9 months. At that time, when my kin would call to me, they used the name Lieha. I never answered or even motioned as if I heard the call. Titi and Mama would come to touch eyes and try to remind me, "You are Lieha." It meant very little other than I thought they liked touching eyes. And so I would smile and stare back at them. At 9 months, when the Storytime cackling ended, I can remember only ever wanting to be outside at night and inside at day. I couldn't fall asleep unless it was outside under the moon's gaze, and I couldn't create the child chalkings expected of me by day unless I was in one of the sections of our daytime dwellings where the roofs were pulled back and left open, rain or shine. When I turned 2 years old, the Storytime cackling began again. This time always at the new moon, and then again at the full moon. And I still wasn't responding to the name Lieha. You see, I was named after 2 great-great-grandmothers and 2 great-great-great-grandmothers. I had never met them in waking life, but they visited me every new moon and full moon. Their names were Lieha, Esther, Addie, and Philomena. And so I was named in the order of their celestial births. Lieha, Esther, Addie, Philomena, and ending in our tribe's name, Tierra. That is me, Lieha, Esther, Addie, Philomena, Tierra, never to be pieced or parceled. On the night of the new moon going into my year 3, the cackling began again and did not stop as the moon phased like it did in times past. Mama, though not afraid, was unknowing and didn't understand what was happening and called for my moon guide. This time, my titi Lillian did not wake in the waking world, for in this night she had met her celestial birth. When her spirit rose to take its place among our lineage's line, to teach and love us into full being from spirit form, she came to me as I cackled uncontrollably, looked at me and whispered in my ear, "Lieha, Esther, Addie, Philomena, we are yours and you are ours." I stopped cackling and spoke my first full sentence aloud. "Yes, I am yours and you are mine." Our tribe figured out that in order for my soul to hear when I was addressed directly, my full name had to be said. And so the cackling and spirit visits from my namesakes continued for the duration of every new moon and full moon. At the new moon in my 9th year, the cackling ended. At the full moon of that same year, after many child chalkings of men marching and trees growing, I took the name Leaf, announced to the family I was ready, and my titi Lillian began breathing our family's lineage code and story into me. At the start of my 11th year, my own moon came, and the rich Deep crimson red blood ran down my thighs and into the earth. The old moon was high in the sky. Didi Lillian and I left the tribe's dwelling and embarked on a millennium-old journey to the White Bark Grove. We only traveled by starlight. It was a 5-day, 6-night journey. My body downloaded star paths, moon phases, wind vibrations, and water flow. And on the 6th night, we laid out Mama's quilt in 6 cups made of maple leaves, filled with spring water collected pre-dawn earlier that day. We sat as Didi Lillian showed me breath work to call on my holders of space, and as the new moon offered us a pitch-black night, even the wind took pause. I sat as I had been taught since birth, in my breath, rooted and connected to Sister Dirt. All of a sudden, I could feel my toes vibrating, and then the hair on my neck and arms stood as if to greet what was coming. Didi Lillian whispered, "Lift your lids, Leaf, and greet your mothers." I opened my eyes, and on my mama's quilt sat Mama Lieja, Mama Esther, Mama Addie, Mama Philomena, and of course, Didi Lillian. Our eyes all touched. My body warmed, glowed, and that's when I noticed I was hovering above the quilt, nestled in love and regard. My 4 mamas and Didi Lillian smiled at me, said in unison, "Leaf is ready." And as one, they threw back their heads and cackled, deep and long. Sparkling and shining, stars flowed up their throats, over tongues speaking languages my heart knew to be ancient and ancestral, but my ears heard anew. Mist leaked past their lips to encircle us. Didi Lillian turned to me and said, "We share with you the story of our second beginning. When the time is here again and the moon is just so, you will sit here." She pointed to her place on the quilt. "And will in turn tell your light holder this, our story. We shall begin," said my grandmamas in one vibrationally aligned voice. They took turns without hesitation or disruption to tell my physical self a story my spirit self knew all too well. The story of Watsupat. There are sacred fields called Watsupat, built 1,000,000 years ago. There are many to be found, and they are all near rock formations where the planet pushed and pulled up and out, giving voice and mass to our planet's core. These square fields, found aside small outcroppings, have a beginning story that is this story, your story, our story. Some of these fields have what is left of small dwellings from a long time ago that our people before us called apartments. The fields themselves are left untouched, and the dwellings are all set along its beautiful, brilliant, grassy green center space. Leaf wanted to ask, what did he do there? Perhaps they used it to gather? But her spirit knew, and her body was told, now is the time for ears and feelings, not mouths and thoughts. So she sat still, lids locked and heart open. Her grandmamas continued to storytell in unison, in turns, in song, and in star breaths. Many moons and star formations ago, these fields were created by thousands of brujas and crones. These fields were created in response to thousands of years of lascivious men lusting and laughing and killing and carving up of the Black woman body. The moon was low in the sky for some and high in the sky for others. The ocean bottom churned, sending messages to wombs worldwide in many languages and tongues, all saying one thing and one thing only. Now is the time. Fed up and filled up with the force of ocean tides, ancestral pain, and the power of menstrual blood freed and flowing, thousands of women woke one starry night across the planet, and in unison, without care or concern for why, walked out into the night, and stomped and cried and prayed and wished and casted and created what the white man scientists ignorantly called crop circles. Imagine leaf, feel it in your bones, brown-skinned and black-skinned and caramel-skinned feet, stomping tears into copper-colored dirt. Their wailing and prayers landing on listening spirits whose lives too were lived under the oppressive, suppressive, and controlling tactics of white supremacist patriarchy for millennium. But this time, their feet and tears and hearts casted and created their beginning again, and white male greed's end. When the sun came up the next day and forever on, in these fields nothing would grow. Buildings built would not remain standing, and any person who vibrated in alignment to anything, white supremacist or patriarchal, could not bear to be near it without violent sickness. This remained true and constant for hundreds of years. Huge square fields found across the globe, stomped and cried on by black feet and tears, unable to be touched or changed. Then one day it was the men who woke, with the moon high in the sky for some and low in the sky for others. The air thick with dense fog, they walked without thought to these same fields. And as they crossed the square threshold of these black sweat and tear-filled square patches of earth, they began to gag and choke, their saliva seeping from mouths, red and foamy and long, unbroken oval loafs down their chins, past throats, leaving scratch marks and scorched trails down their chests, past their bellies, hooking there and continuing down knees and in between toes. And as this red, foamy, oval, fire-rich stalk touched the black, sweat and tear-rich earth, it broke from their mouths, latching at their abdomens, locking them there. At first they struggled to free themselves, and with every writhe and turn, the red, foamy loaf opened as they birthed white, gray, gnarled tree trunks. Their toes connecting to form roots. Their fingers lassoed to form branches, their stringy hair reaching up and in and offering to become leaves. Over the course of 100 years, white bark trees have grown there, in those fields, in a perfect square from dark, rich, black, sweat and tear-drenched dirt, with long, beautiful, wavy, glistening green grass, unable to be cut by any machine or act imagined by the men left behind. These fields were the beginning of an era ending. It is then that birth of man babies began to disappear, and our ability to connect in spirit form sprung from the wombs of those who were long past fertilization, and in the hearts of those still bringing life breath. This, our story is to be cherished and shared. You are of this planet. This dirt is you. Our story is to be felt in every inch and molecule of your everything, and is in and of everything. These spaces are where our mothers came from, spirits lifted, came in physical form and danced with stars and moon dust and took back what was never truly taken, only forgotten. In these fields, our mothers remembered. In these fields, our mothers planted seeds of love's power to protect and cultivate. Today, we call these places Watsupat, the white bark groves of remembering. This is your story, Leaf. The story of Lieha, of Esther, of Addie, of Philomena. The story of the millions of stars we see in the night sky, and still there when the sun's high. My aunties brought our remembering circle to a close and breathed me back into my body and continued with one of our tribe's sacred coming-of-age rituals. This is where the story ends for you, my sweet listener. I leave you with this. This is not the only story. There are many tales to be told. Can you feel it too? In your bones, skin, heart, and breath? We are starting to remember our many stories. Regard yours and remember who you are. You are of earth and you are of stardust. What are the stories you're downloading?